I'm not sure there is a clear definition for the reporting landscape, but I would say it is the set of frameworks that address reporting requirements and includes both the definition of each as well as the place that each takes in relation to the others. And by that, it becomes the landscape, I would say. The reporting landscape for climate change is diverse. I would say we have many frameworks, many requirements. At a global level, we have the corporate reporting dialogue that has brought together 8 organizations for reporting. Some of them are financial, others are more non-financially oriented. And each of them has its own purpose and its own audience. But because of that, there is already some complexity. And that complexity consists of the question, what is that specific purpose? What is that specific audience? But more importantly, how does it all fit together?
So when we talk about the reporting landscape, generally sustainability professionals are referring to the GRI, the IRC, CDSB, CDP, etc., SASB. However, we felt that there was more to the reporting landscape than just the voluntary initiatives that many of our member companies were in the process of working with. And through a partnership that we created with CDSB and with EcoDesk, we started the journey of mapping this landscape. Now, we didn't know what we were going to find, but we knew that it would be more than just the voluntary initiatives. So we started the process in 2014. Through the generosity of the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, we were able to make this a really, full-time, extensive project. But we were somewhat surprised that 3 years after we started the project and were ready to launch the reporting exchange, that there were over 1,970 reporting provisions, management resources, and reporting resources across 70 countries. What we were able to do is actually, for the first time, is map the real reporting landscape, which included mandatory provisions enshrined in law, comply or explain provisions enshrined in soft law, as well as the voluntary initiatives. And what we've concluded that there's a lot more regulation out there than perhaps previously understood. The purpose of the reporting exchange, of course, was to be informative to reporters. It was to help companies understand the obligations that they had, but it was also designed to identify where perhaps there were duplications in reporting provisions, or where there were gaps, or where there was inconsistencies. And what we've observed is that there is a lot of inconsistency in the reporting landscape. There's also a lot of duplication. We've seen that in some countries, sustainability reporting is only focused on environmental, whereas in other countries, there's a mixture of E, S, and G.
What does it mean for me as a report preparer if I want to report on climate change? And what does it mean for an assurance provider if one of the frameworks gets applied and others not? That confusion should be clarified by explaining how the one framework can be used with others, and how the frameworks together serve your purpose, or how you could select each of them. This already makes it complex. If I look at the non-financials, it are essentially 5 at the global level. But it's already 5, and you have to understand each of them, where also they use sometimes different terminology, different definitions, different levels of detail, different structure. And all of that, as said, makes it complex and needs to be resolved. There are projects ongoing, as you could see when you look into the corporate reporting dialogue already, to kind of solve that confusion. Even if that confusion would be resolved for these 5, then we would still have a lot of complexity, because in addition to these, we have hundreds of other initiatives around the world, governments, exchanges, sectors, There are so many initiatives that all also in many cases relate to climate change, climate-related information that can easily further confuse or confuse reporters or add additional burden to them. And that is a complexity that honestly is not easy to be resolved. I'm not asked here to give the solution, but only explain the complexity. But I think, as you all will notice, there is an issue here to be resolved on relatively short term, because reporting on climate is not just for the sake of reporting, but it is really to address a most important societal and financial issue.